Tigers are getting ready to take on Arkansas Saturday morning in Tiger Stadium. Frank Wilson, earlier this week on Monday when he met with reporters, said that both Garrett Nussmeier and Michael Van Buren will play against Arkansas Saturday. Garrett Nussmeier will continue to take the first reps, but that both will play. And on the SEC Coaches Teleconference Wednesday morning, I asked Frank Wilson if they've considered a red shirt for Michael Van Buren. Here's what he said.
And Michael's no different than the rest of them. If he can come in and contribute and help us to win, it's something he wants to do. It's something that we want him to do because we think he has tremendous value to us.
Okay. So Frank Wilson is committed to playing both Nussmeier and Michael Van Buren. But is that the right decision? I think it is not. Now, first, before I go any further, let's go back to Monday when we had the whole conversation about Nuss, Van Buren, who they're going to play. You all know where I stand. A bit in my feels. Want to reward Nuss's loyalty in an otherwise lost season. He's got 3 games to go. Let him play. That's general my feeling. I don't need to go deep dive into the whole thing again. You can go back and catch that whole conversation if you're interested in it. When I think about Van Buren specifically wanting to play here in these final 3 games, I think that is a selfless decision, but I do not think it is a smart decision for Van Buren or for LSU. Let me explain. Back in the spring, Brian Kelly gave an interview with The Advocate. It was a one-on-one interview with The Advocate. And in that interview, Brian Kelly said that Garrett Nussmeier would play, and the other 3 quarterbacks, Van Buren, Colin Hurley, and at the time, Juwan Johnson. Remember, Juwan Johnson was playing quarterback in the spring. That all 3 of them were going to redshirt, that none of them would play more than 4 games this year. And the reason was pretty obvious. You missed on Bryce Underwood when he flipped. You weren't able to sign a 2025 quarterback. And because you were on Bryce Underwood for so long, you basically missed on the 26 class. You still don't have a quarterback committed for 2026. So after 25 this season, you're losing Garrett Nussmeier, and you basically have 2 scholarship quarterbacks, Van Buren and Hurley. And it stands to reason you need reinforcements at that position. So there's no reason to burn anybody's eligibility in this season when you had a 5th-year senior in Nussmeier, who, remember, coming into this season was a Heisman co-favorite along with Cade Klubnik, and LSU was preseason top 10, and Nussmeier had a line on setting the LSU career passing record, all that sort of stuff. Now we know the season's gone the way it has. But I would argue that's actually even more of a reason not to play Van Buren. Let me explain. This is you are 5-4 this season. This season is lost. You have 3 games remaining, and you're not playing for anything. Music City Bowl or Texas Bowl. I mean, what are we talking about here? You're not playing for anything of significance. There's no SEC championship, no playoff, nothing of significance on the line remaining this season. And Michael Van Buren will be playing a reserve role. It would be different. My feeling on this would be different if Nussmeier were unavailable for whatever reason. Injury, opt-out, like none of that stuff's happened. But if Nussmeier were unavailable and you needed Van Buren to go start the final 3 games and play the whole game, okay, I would have a very different feeling on that. But you're talking about a guy playing a reserve role that this year has played 26 snaps against Southeastern, 11 against Texas A&M, and then 21 snaps against Alabama. So what are we talking about? A similar situation against Arkansas where you play both guys and he gets 20-something snaps? Is that worth it? So he's played 3 games so far. Van Buren can play in 1 more, plus the bowl game, by the way, but he can play in 1 more in the regular season, 1 of your final 3, and still maintain his redshirt year. And with LSU's very cloudy future at quarterback, I would rather retain that extra year of eligibility than burn it having him play the final 3 games in a lost season in a reserve role. I mean, consider also, just from Van Buren's perspective, In this instance, we would be talking about the 2028 season, right? So he's a true sophomore, played 9 games last year as a freshman. He's a sophomore right now at LSU. So he'd have 26, 27, and if he maintains his redshirt year, would have the 28 season available to him as well. There is no greater value that a player would have financially and competitively than in their 5th or whatever situation could arise, a 6th season. Look at Garrett Nussmeier this year. A season ago, Nussmeier was one of the lowest compensated quarterbacks in the SEC. Stunning as that is, it's true. This year, his compensation, according to his value, is around $3 million. Michael Van Buren would potentially have that opportunity, LSU or elsewhere, in 2028 if he redshirts this year. By the way, the number before the season I was told that Van Buren was paid, you don't think LSU is all in on this season? The number I was told for Van Buren on this season was about $450,000. So just shy of $500,000 come be LSU's backup this year. You don't think they were all in on this season? Or they were all in on this season? So just look at that from a backup. What would it look like if he ends up as a P5 starter here or elsewhere for the next 2 or 3 seasons? So financially for Michael Van Buren, it makes sense to redshirt. Competitively for Michael Van Buren to have that opportunity potentially in 2028 to redshirt. And for LSU, if he sticks around here, which there's no guarantee he does, but if he does, you'd have another year of eligibility for him on the back end instead of wasting it right now in a lost season. And this isn't anything new. Look, a season ago, West Weeks did this. West Weeks was injured. He missed a chunk of the season. He was available in November, but they chose to sit him in all but one game in November so that he could play this year with Witt and Zach. And he played one game in November, and then he played the bowl game as well, because the bowl game no longer counts about eligibility. Speaking of which, that's probably the greatest example of why you're redshirt, is what Garrett Nussmeier did in 2021. Remember, LSU was playing Kansas State in the bowl game. Nuss had played in 4 games. They had not yet instituted the Garrett Nussmeier rule. So had he played quarterback in that game in 2021, he would have lost a year of eligibility, which was this year. He would not have been able to return this year. Now, I know how this year has gone, but think about coming into this season, all the promise and potential because you had your 5th-year senior and returning starting quarterback. And by the way, Nussmeier made a lot of money this year. So, my feeling would be different if LSU were playing for something of significance or if Michael Van Buren were starting, like if Nuss wasn't available. But you still have Nussmeier available. You're not playing for anything of consequence. There is no reason to burn his red shirt playing out the string in a reserve role in these final 3 games. We'll see how Saturday goes against Arkansas, but my sincere hope is they reconsider this decision and they think more long-term instead of short-term, because I don't even know how much Van Buren benefits you in the immediate short term in 3 games remaining. You could play him in 1 more, and you could play him in the bowl game. Think bigger picture instead of this narrow focus of this immediacy right now in what is a lost season. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.